had 68 games this,
Right,
whereas
okay.
Stukov was at 19. So something is clearly incorrect there.
Okay. Anyways, map number 2, it's going to be Infernal Shrines, picked by Soa here. So we've actually seen a little bit of a trend, not just in China, but other regions as well, in which the losing team for game number 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how many games you have, usually ends up picking the map over first pick these days. Whatever caused this change to happen, we don't know exactly, but I think it's just that in the current hero pool, there's no longer this one hero that dominates all others, like Maiev when she was released, for example, or Genji when he was still in his prime, right? There's so many heroes that you can focus on. You can focus on a good support these days. You can focus on a strong tank like Garrosh or Diablo. So first pick normally doesn't net you the value that it used to.
Yeah. Okay, I have finally broken it down.
Nice.
To the actual current phase we are in with RPG, with time slot RPG, etc. He has a 71% popularity in terms of being picked or banned in 71% of the matches, and a 53% win rate.
What was that? Sorry.
A 53% win rate.
I expected a little more, but
28.
It's already an improvement already if you compare it to the other phases, right? Where we even had a negative below 50% win ratio on the Stukov. So China is catching up. China is adapting. And that, of course, is a very nice thing to see for the upcoming mid-season Brawl Tetra, because I'm pretty sure not just SBT, CE, and The One, but all the teams in China want to step up their game after a rather disappointing result at the Eastern Clash.
That would be an objective and a goal there to try and prove themselves on the international stage there. I want to say scale. That is wrong. Prove themselves on the international stage and begin to step up the ranking in China on the world area there. We can see Balfurion and Tychus. I thought that was Reyna for a second, but those infested Tychus. And, of course, the Sonya as the first pick for RPG. This is the map she is first picked on the most out of all of them, if I had to guess.
Now, I wasn't able to watch all of Korea last week, but I think a little birdie tweeted at me that Raynor was played there in Korea. Were you able to watch that match?
Really? No, this is news to me. I will find out right now.
Maybe the bird was wrong, but I recall someone telling me about it. And of course, there was all sorts of crazy things happening in Korea last week, right? Tempest had to forfeit a game, which was so
I saw that
unfortunate. Did you hear the story?
They just thought they was game 2, not game 1,
exactly.
or one of their players.
One of their players, Good. I think we can call the name out because it's not really an insider secret anymore. Like, Good basically thought they had the second series in the day, not the first one, and as such, he wasn't at the studio when he needed to be, and there was no way he would make it in time. So the team was like, "Okay, guys, guess we're gonna have to give him a 0-3." Feels bad, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
We get so few default wins in matches.
I don't think I've ever seen any. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I cast Open Division, we get a couple, but that is kind of crazy. So, ETC and Stukov, once again, coming in. The man of the hour, the admiral of the hour.
That is very true, and let's see. The Malfurion as such, you can really see how both Chinese teams here, SOA and RPG, they're so prioritizing over the supports, right? They're so scared of the enemy team picking either Malf and Stukov and then banning away the other, because then you would have to fall back on the likes of Rhaegar, Uther, maybe an Alexstrasza, which has seen some play in China lately, and looks like both teams are not willing to commit to that. However, on Infernal Shrines, actually, I would have loved to see an Alexstrasza for SOA. They actually made her work quite well in the past.
I am just quite a big fan of Alexstrasza in general, but there is obviously the opportunity of... there is always the issue of the amount of CC the opponent can bring out when you have that cleanseless hero who doesn't have the options for stuff like the burst heal on CC like Stukov, or even just the burst heal in general. Dragon Queen with quite the warm-up can really remove the disengage value that Stukov gets just as an E in general.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it can be a little risky.
Can be a little bit risky, as you said. There is quite a lot of counters to the Alexstrasza these days, and already we can see... Actually, those are a couple of really smart bans by RPG. Obviously, the Medivh, very powerful in almost any situation, in any given team composition, but also denying them the Diablo when the Garrosh had already been taken away by Soa, right? So both top-tier warriors at the moment are out of the equation, and the one that comes next in line, in my opinion, maybe sometimes even being higher prioritized than Garrosh and Diablo, is ETC, and they secured that already next to the Sonya. So they really made sure to secure themselves a couple of really formidable weapons, RPG that is, and they don't really leave a lot left for Soa to be chosen now.
Yeah, I mean, ETC especially seems to be re-leaping back up in priority. I started to think he was just a comfort pick for a couple of tanks, but he's really showing up more and more recently. So I just think he's just being re-accepted into the fold, as it were.
Oh, we see Varian being picked yet again, with Lady Jaina in the mix as well. Full alliance combo here. Actually, 3 alliance here with Malfurion included already. So not too shabby. Varian, of course, we can talk about a little bit. Tetcher has seen a lot more play in both NA and EU. Korea probably as well. And even China is quite fond of him again.
I mean, I'm not seeing him that much in the matches I'm looking at in Korea here while trying to find this Reina game.
Because I get a sudden surge of adrenaline in my body whenever he gets locked in. So even if I'm not watching at the moment, I immediately turn on my HGC button. You
get a victory rush.
Exactly.
But yeah, with Jaina as well, going to be a solid lineup with the hard lockdown of Varian, followed up with the solid damage over time and the burst of the Jaina. Now then, RPG. With a Hanzo managing to slip his way through the draft, actually, kind of interesting, coming out. So now they're pretty open for their last pick. They have all their bases covered, so it's probably going to be a second range damage dealer. No, it's the Zarya.
This is interesting. Now, RPG picks Zarya here into this to provide more protection for the likes of Sonya, ETC, and even Hanzo if he ends up getting pressured by the Varian, for example. So I can see the Zarya being some sort of Varian taunt softener here, if you will. However, there is a talent called Shattering Throw at level 13, so depending on which route Varian wants to go, right, if he wants to shut down the self-healing of heroes like Sonya, ETC, or Stukov, or if he really wants to focus on blowing down the shields of Zarya, we could see a different talent. Now, what people can forget about the way Shattering Throw works, it actually deals damage to the shields, right? So Zarya will get a massive surge of energy whenever one of those shields gets crushed by the Shattering Throw. So it's like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, Varian counters Zarya. On the other hand, he basically doesn't counter her because he turns and amplifies her damage quite a bit. So it wouldn't even surprise me if he went for Mortal Strike at 13 after all.
He is effective at killing her in the fact that he is good at burst. And we see a Maiev coming in here as the final pick. Interesting drafts from both teams, and I have also searched for a while now. I cannot find this Reina game. I think someone may have... I think your little
Maybe
bird...
I was just misinformed by a mischievous raven all along. Who are the most mischievous birds? A magpie?
Magpie,
yeah. I was going to say, maybe it was a magpie who tweeted at me, and I should no longer listen to those.
I mean, that or my eyes are deceiving me, which is a very good chance they are. Either way, looking at the drafts, very interesting here, especially from RPG bringing in that Zarya and the Maiev. Interesting as well, due to the very few escape opportunities coming in here from the side of RPG. Hanzo has a wall jump, but even that does grant him unstoppable. So he could, in theory, if the Warden's Cage is used near a wall, he would be able to get out that way. Everyone else, though, much less easy. They're all going to be in a lot of trouble. So it looks like they're going to have to just group up and fight. So maybe the area shield from Zarya might even be required here.
Maybe that, yeah. The gain train at 16 could be a good choice. Now, there's something I like about Soa's draft here with the Varian, and there's something I don't like about it. But we're going to elaborate more on that matter after we introduce the teams once more for you guys. We're diving into Infernal Shrines on the left-hand side. In the blue trunks, it is Team Start over again with Faye on Maiev. Uncle G is playing the Malf again. We have TY on the Jaina, Klong on my boy Varian, and Sorry on Tychus.
And on the right-hand side, 1-0 up, it is RPG with Chicken on Sonya, MJ on Stukov, Sar on Hanzo, C on ETC, and Timeless is bringing out the Zarya.
All right, Timeless on the Zarya. That is not really a hero we're used to seeing when talking about that glorious player, but, you know, I'm interested. I'm down for it. Going for the grenade build all along as well here. Now, whenever you play Zarya, you need to take a look at the enemy team, right? when the enemy team has a lot of melees, a lot of tanks and bruisers, and look at that, by the way, we see Maiev going in here as well, not really getting the value though. But if you have a lot of melee heroes that like to clump up a little bit and get close to you because they're melee heroes, then you can oftentimes go for Field of Heat with the increased damage on nearby targets. If the enemy team has a lot of backliners, a lot of ranged poke heroes like, let's say, Jaina, Tychus, even Maiev to a certain extent, you go for the grenades because you can reach them from a safer distance and you wouldn't get value from Field of Heat anyway. So already a nice build that Timeless shows here, in my opinion.
Yeah, very sensible. He hasn't gone for the greed of, oh, we're going to be fighting in a Warden's Cage, therefore I should take the close range ability. Nope, the fact is, the people who you could really kill with that, harm with that ability, the only one who's really going to be near you is Maya. Yep. So out of all of them, you're going to get 1 out of 5 persons value. So you're much better off, even if you're fighting in the Warden's Cage, just pinging the backline.
Exactly, and Varian will just continue to parry your attacks anyways, so you lose a lot of value there. Speaking of Varian, by the way, he didn't even go overpowered. He went for the Lion's Maw, which is a talent that we're not really seeing that much, but it's getting more and more play because of the way his rework this works now, right? You no longer have to go for the Holy Trinity with parry, parry, parry from 1 to 7. Instead, with so many parry talents now either changed or gone completely, Lion's Maw is gaining a lot more effectiveness.
Yep, it's very sensible if you're going to be doing a lot of poking and holding out on your engage, and seeing as Varian is only the blow-up engager as opposed to the full team fight engager. This job goes to Fei. He is absolutely fine to go for a little bit of poking, which is also going to make sustain once he hits level 7 pretty effective without having to risk the victory rush or stay in melee range of someone like Azaya, where he would gain value out of the second wind, and this would give him more interest into the parry build. He has gone for whatever is going to help his enemies the least.
Oh, this was a nice tether here onto C, but the power slide was well coordinated as well. Just dodging the Malfroots. Is it going to be enough? No, it's not. The constant resets on the fan of knives here for Fei. There we go. Had a crack in my record there. Just doing really, really well. A lot of work being dealt, a lot of damage in the process as well. So ETC ends up being first blood. Now, Tetcher, I was a little worried when I saw the draft for Soa, right? Because Varian as the only true tank tends to be Varian's squishy as well, right? You normally are not as tanky as you can be with someone else at your side. Oftentimes Varian is even played in the solo lane, right? So up to this point, though, it seems to be working quite well. And Taunt is here now. He's going to be much tankier than before.
Exactly, and he's already used that to pick up that kill on ETC a little bit earlier, but we're at such low levels, ETC is back and is already rejoined his team. Level 6 is on the way for both teams here as they begin scuffling. Taunt is used onto Sonya. Whirlwind is active though, and Chicken heals almost back up to full instantly.
Trying to focus on Klong, and the variant doesn't work out though. The Tapper once again absolutely wrecking C's life here on the ETC. He certainly does not have a good time. Timeless, no mobility on the Zarya. He ends up falling next. Maiev is doing more shady, dirty business. She's wrecking one member after the other. Only Sa is left to survive now using the natural agility, and they weren't even able to get this shrine now. They weren't able to defend the top lane. As such, RPG is falling behind in this early game so tremendously.
Yeah, this is Soa taking full control here, making the absolute most of that Varian. People used to complain, oh, my Varian doesn't come online until level 10, makes him a terrible hero. Now it's a situation of, oh my god, but none of the heroes come online until level 10 because Varian is murdering them all.
Yes. Very true. I mean, Varian excels in the early game past level 4 now, right, these days. You have so much lockdown capabilities. You have surprising amount of damage as well if you go for Lion's Maw or even overpower formidable tools to lock someone down. And he makes up for the lack of HP and attack damage by simply forcing the enemy team to retreat, because locking them down is very, very scary at level 4. So, beautiful point you raised there. It remains to be seen whether Varian will still receive further buffs on his damage build, respectively, because I think right now they are in a much worse spot than the tank build. But, of course, that remains to be seen with the next couple of balance updates, whenever they may come.
And Zarya is gone. Another lovely taunt coming in here. See, walking through the Arcade Sentinels because that was the closest he could get to his base and had to retreat otherwise. But yeah, RPG completely on the back foot, leveling a bit behind now.
Yeah, what's really cool to see there as well is the fact that Malfurion and Varian, they pair up pretty well with each other because you don't really have to spam the heals on Varian all day, every day these days because he has that inbuilt innate self-healing provided by the Lion's Fang, now Lion's Maw. So he can oftentimes focus on healing other targets, right? He can spread the regrowth even more on targets like Maiev, who is definitely going to require way more healing than Varian in this case. So up to this point, so they're the ones turning on the aggression. They're the ones going in all the time. And if you turn on the aggression, you don't have to worry about getting initiated on as a consequence. So speaking of getting initiated on, RPG is trying to make something happen for you, level 10.
Deep barrier, pretty good idea here. No. Zarya getting focused, walking into the room, keeping herself alive, but she is taking a lot of damage. Tychus will not maybe pick up the ground to kill. So much damage. Timeless finally down. It is a 2-for-1 with Hanzo being picked off from the side. So even though that was a pretty decent engage angle, the slower the demounting of C gave them a much better fight position, and so win another fight.
Now the problem here is that RPG put it all in line, right? They tried to make something happen pre-level 10. They fought so closely to their own keep though. So if they lost that team fight, which is what they did, they basically give up that keep altogether, right? With the Odin now in place, with all the damage and all the health bars still looking good. Actually, I don't think they're even going to get it. So that was lucky turn of events for RPG anyways, but it already fell so close. So that is now always a backdoor factor that they need to pay attention to.
You see the full retreat from Soa, getting themselves out of danger so they do not get caught out here. Malfurion has been the one sent up to top lane actually to clear out that fallen shaman camp. Sorry. He's going to be there a while, but at least someone's doing it. Therefore, will probably still fall, though. It's going to be pretty close.
That is actually sometimes a reason why people like picking the broccoli over the increased roots by deep roots, because the little trend is actually going to intercept minions, and it causes them to aggro the trend instead of the building, which oftentimes can buy your team a couple of precious seconds to save those. Ooh, TY was getting very close here, but good move by C, not getting overzealous, not going for it. The expulsion zone shutting out Jaina and Tychus for now. Yeah, that was a good play by C. The Jaina looked like a juicy target to fall on, right? To collapse on, but they didn't do it because they realized, oops, Maiev is here, the entire enemy team is there. Let's just fall back and play a little bit more patiently right now.
Yeah, their zoning allowed the minion wave to kill top 4, so they got that. They leashed that camp. They wanted to seal it, but they couldn't get any positioning in order to make the attempt, so they let it leash. And then, of course, like you said, the expulsion zone and Sonya turning around from chasing Klong, because otherwise she would have very much isolated herself. Full retreat coming in from RPG here as they're moving back into this little choke point. Yeah. No, they're actually moving up a bit. They're choosing to take a much more wide engage angle as opposed to grouping up. Now they begin to move out, but now they've spread themselves out. The Warden's Cage comes out, and Sars has nowhere to go. No. He gets taken out.
That is the cheeky thing about the Warden's Cage. Just when you think you're safe, there's still that one little remaining piece of the cage that throws you back. And in that case, it was the end of ETC. Unfortunately, he was not meant to be. So, this is so important tension now. If they get this Infernal Punisher, the Mortar Punisher that is, if they get that one, not only will they get a lot of momentum, obviously, but they can also shift to the bottom instead of maybe even sieging for the top in the first place and get the key, right? This is actually what I would be suggesting here. The fort has already been taken by Soa, so instead of going with the Punisher, they could send 1 or 2 people, maybe even the entire team, to take down the bottom piece for good, to basically get catapult pressure guaranteed. Now here comes the Dragon's Arrow.
The counter attempt, Mosh Pit lands. They've got Varian, but the interrupt from Tychus with the grenade, but Klong still being focused down. He is taken out off cooldown. No, now you see Maiev, 38. 38!
2 more! No, they get him!
And he is taken out. Now it's Tychus, but he's completely zoned. Saar putting on the pressure. And RPG, they've got a little bit to go, but no one's in position to steal that back. They have stolen away that Punisher at the last second.
Out of nowhere did RPG find those kills. It seems they weren't 13, so as such, Soa probably didn't expect them to chase them down this relentlessly and this, determinedly as they were. So really well done by RPG. This could be the big moment for them to start that comeback, to gain a lot of momentum. They basically need to push all the way through and maybe even get the keep. This is so well going for the wall here, so they have vision. So they have a little bit of vision of what's going down behind. The silence here just intended to zone them out for now as they continue on attacking the towers.
Good shield from Zarya, blocking a lot of that damage. Twilight Dream just trying everything they can to kill HGC here. Not able to do so. A lot of that fight in the bot lane came so much down to Chicken. He did not come in with the rest of his team. He wrapped around from below and landed a perfect poison spear onto Jaina.
Yeah.
That forced her to back up to the rest of her team, forcing a group up, which was then punished by ATC.
Okay, so because of strong focus fire on the ETC, bringing him down to 20% rather early in the fight, they weren't able to finish that push, RPG that is. So good defense by Soa, and already they seem to know exactly what RPG is trying to do. And without the cooldowns, or without the availability of abilities like, let's say, the Mosh Pit, they're trying to make something happen immediately. Saw caught out of position. That is never meant to happen here. If you're a Hanzo, you need to make sure that you use natural agility in time. As such, you're easy prey for the Maiev, who continues to dominate once more.
Yeah, Maiev has just been bullying the members of RPG at this point. Yeah. That is likely to continue here. Zarya yet to select her level 13 here. Usually we would end up seeing the pain is temporary, but we do not. We see the spell barrier here, which is fairly reasonable, giving her a little bit of extra protection from the Maiev and even the Jaina.
Yeah, I think Jaina is the main target that talent is aimed at, right? So now we see a finish dash for Tychus, which is very nice. Gives him a longer dash range, a much shorter cooldown as well, and of course, as such, he's much more mobile and likely to escape the likes of Sonya or ETC.
Shield smash coming in for Varian here. Shattering throw. Wants to remove that. Zarya doesn't care about the energy. Zarya's been doing honestly a pretty good job keeping high energy during most of the fights. So might as well just remove the sustain. Burst through those shields. Kill C. Kill Timeless if they can.
I think that is also the reason why Timeless didn't go for Pain is Temporary, because that would just mean he gets another shield, and that shield is then going to get crushed by Varian once more. So I think he was more concerned about reducing a little bit of ability damage rather than going for another shield that probably wouldn't net them much value against Varian.
Makes sense. Makes sense indeed, as we see the Khazra, single Khazra attacking the Fountain, but finally lost vision. So as such, these Khazras will be cleared up with reasonable haste, as RPG backing up. They don't want to get themselves killed off again. The 16 is approaching for Soa much quicker than it is for them.
I never thought this solo tank Varian composition would have worked so well for Soa, by the way. They really seem to know when to go in, when to make those aggressive plays without overcommitting, without overextending, and as such, Varian has or did survive the early game so well, and now the mid-late game is all his to shine. The scaling is starting to kick in more and more. Didn't even go for the Warbringer, which is something we see a lot now in the other regions as well, to basically have a more efficient chasing method or an escape route, because you can now charge 2 allies as well. So instead going for the shield wall, which of course is nice against all the burst damage coming in from Zarya potentially when she's fully charged up. Hanzo, Sonya, there's a little bit of burst damage available, so I think Warbringer could have been a good choice overall though.
Yeah, but both are viable. I would have personally preferred Warbringer, but that would have meant you would have lost value on Juggernaut by not taking it. So I'm okay with Shield Wall, considering that you're losing a little bit of value in general, and so far mobility hasn't really been a problem. So, Water Elemental wrapping around from the side, beginning to put some pressure already onto Chicken. Shield is down. Dragon Arrow hits 4 members. Warden's Cage only really on ETC, who begins to open up an exit so that him and Chicken have an escape route if they need it. Root is down though, punishing Chicken. Shield is on him. Tether being used. The control, the control case, the flaming swipe, trying to give Chicken an escape route, but it does not work.
And if you've ever watched competitive StarCraft 2, or if you ever played StarCraft 2 yourself, then you know what a concave can do to your team or to your units. And here, this is exactly the same scenario that RPG found themselves in. They tried to go through the spearhead here, but there was already a concave of Jaina and Tychus waiting for them. They had such movement freedom here to really rain doom and demise on their opponents as such, so it couldn't really... RPG couldn't really make it through the choke point, and now they're going to have to defend this Punisher 1 man down. This is definitely going to be the keep. Now they need to bait it over to the middle. That's exactly what they do. If the Punisher gets distracted by yet another keep, they can maybe be distracted long enough to stay in the game. But no, the Punisher actually goes back onwards to the court. This is a bad scenario for for RPG to be in right now.
Water Elemental is down though, they're moving forward. Punisher with a 3-man stun, but it's forced a big group up from Soa. This could be Punisher if they're moving into the backline, looking for TY here. The Twilight Dream is pretty good, but only really hits Jada. The Mosh Pit grabbing 2 members. Mayhem desperately trying to turn this round to give her the chance to pick up a kill already. The Punisher coming back in for a double stun. Uncle G is so far out of position. 3 kills, 4 kills to 1. And RPG under the Punisher, getting 3-man stunned, they're still able to take the fight and save the game.
RPG did it again, not losing a single point. Okay, now they lose a couple of points of health here. But they did it again. They managed to stay in the game, not falling to the onslaught of Soa that looked so strong already, almost a full HP Immortal at the core. But then we see the front line from RPG finally what they're supposed to be doing, going for the squishies, protecting the backline at the same time. And here goes TY. By the way, once the mosh pit goes down, the immediate target switch, so well done by Chicken, not chasing Jaina, going for the targets in the dance party immediately, and this way they manage to stay in the game and they claw their way back into this, now taking an experience lead. Well done by RPG, but also a little sloppy by Soa, because normally you're not supposed to lose a push like that with the objective at your side as convincingly as they did.
Permanent damage, though, like you said, still done to RPG here. So they have to constantly defend that bot lane now and need to constantly not die to this. As we see an incoming taunt, good power slide, just as a disengage. You can really see the burst damage that Varian can offer just by himself, which is what makes him such a good tank in the current meta.
Exactly. That is the power of a fully stacked Lion's Maul, right? You gain more damage on your Q, you have a stronger slow that also persists for much longer, so it's going to be much harder for targets to escape the Fang of the Lion in the first place. So, yeah, Sa, I mean, he's been the focus target now multiple times on that Hanzo, and he's a little bit susceptible to getting caught. I do want to say this. Now, Chicken needs to be so careful. They have perfect vision on the minimap. They know that this is the only objective left available. The other ones were all taken by the blue team, by Soa, so good map awareness by both teams. Soa invading and Chicken retreating.
In comes Sonic Arrow, sees everything that's going on here. Scatter Arrow for good measure. It is an interesting build by Hanzo, by the way. He has just gone for what we would call the mix of almost one of everything. So we see stealing away the objective. The Fallen Shaman camp will push in the top lane, but Zarya's in position. ETC is close to in position. They can defend this. But this is what Sora are trying to do. Cause pressure in some lanes so that they can push in others. They're going to try and pressure mid lane here. If they want, they could try and pressure bot lane, set up for catapults.
All right, so this is yet another hold for RPG. The core shields have, of course, regenerated fully. But now they need to make sure that they don't lose too many structures on the other lanes. All they need to do right now is just continue to soak until 20. Now this move by Sa already is so risky, but here comes the Varian engage. Here comes the expulsion zone, and the Warden's Cage is good though. Flinging Timeless back. Can he survive though? Getting the heal for now.
The mosh pit, but he's standing in the blizzard. Doesn't have enough health to survive. MJ already having burst heal to try and save Timeless. Timeless getting caught and getting it taken out. This is now a 5 versus 3 defense as we see Soa moving in for the core. RPG choosing to take the safe defense route. They're pressuring the Tychus here. The Odin is down. Sonya needs the right engage angle if they want any chance of saving this. The silence is good. It's zoning them away. RPG, they're being very cheeky about this defense, putting a good focus onto angles and focus target here, but a taunt silence blow up there onto Sonya. And with only 22 seconds left for HGC, this is going to be it. Hanzo cannot do this alone. And that is GG. Soa takes game number 2, and both of these teams walk away with 1 point.
They both take 1 point, but I feel like RPG wanted to get more in that series. They looked so good in game number 1, but then in game 2, they just gave it away after a stronghold here. And I do want to highlight this one little move here by Sa on the Hanzo. He stepped out of the base, realizing that there had to be some enemy team members nearby, right? Timeless actually went with him. So the 2 team members that weren't supposed to be frontlined in that moment. The Varian came out of the bush, engaged on the Zarya, locked her down, and it was all she wrote from there. There was no ETC, there was no Sonya to really care for them, and that is the rotation mistake, the positioning mistake that you can't afford to do in the late game. It always needs to be ETC or Sonya to be near the bushes when you don't have clear vision. So Hanzo, Sa, and Timeless really stepping too much forward and getting caught in the process right next to their base and losing their lives. That was all the mistake there, unfortunately. So if they work on those tiny little mistakes, right, not sending those squishies to maybe face check, to maybe even get close to the bushes, if they maintained their composure, they could have done so much more, Tetcher.
Yeah, it was